War tensions spike again after a major drone attack at the UAE's Baraka nuclear plant. Trump's Arab allies appear to be trembling with fear as a fresh nuclear scare grips the Middle East. Revealed: why the reported attack on Baraka NPP is triggering panic across the Arab world.
The United Arab Emirates says that a drone has struck a generator on the perimeter of its Baraka nuclear power plant. This is a major issue for the UAE, as the Baraka plant and its 4 reactors provide about a quarter of all electricity for this country on the Arabian Peninsula.
A Dubai-based journalist has explained why the Baraka nuclear power plant is seen as strategically and symbolically vital for the UAE. Al Jazeera spoke to journalist Natasha Turak after the reported drone attack on the Baraka nuclear power plant. Turak described the facility as a crowning achievement for the UAE, underscoring its national importance, according to Al Jazeera. Natasha Turak said, and I quote, "It is the first and only nuclear power plant in the Arab world. Built in partnership with South Korea for $20 billion, the plant began full commercial operation in 2021 and supplies about 25% of the UAE's electricity. The Baraka plant also plays a key role in the UAE's climate and net zero goals by 2050. The UAE operates the plant with help from the US, with which it has an agreement to import nuclear fuel rather than developing its own ability to enrich and reprocess uranium. It's really been upheld as an example for the world on how to develop a safe and peaceful nuclear energy program." Unquote. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack, which reportedly caused a fire at an electric generator. Emirati officials said there was no danger to the public and no radioactive leak following the incident. Meanwhile, an Associated Press journalist provided additional reporting and fresh details about the latest attack.
The United Arab Emirates says that a drone has struck a generator on the perimeter of its Baraka nuclear power plant. This is a major issue for the UAE, as the Baraka plant and its 4 reactors provide about a quarter of all electricity for this country on the Arabian Peninsula. No one has claimed responsibility yet for the attack. The UAE says that 3 drones came over its western border. It shot down 2 of them, and the other one was able to make the strike at Baraka. Now, the UAE says there's no radiological leak at the site. That's been confirmed also by the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog. And the UAE says it's still investigating who launched these drones. However, Iran and Iranian-backed Shia militias in Iraq conducted numerous drone attacks on Gulf Arab states during the war between the United States, Israel, and Iran that is still in a shaky ceasefire even today. This attack is likely to potentially draw the UAE further in. It's been trying to show that it's open again for business, that it's a safe haven for investments, but these continued attacks continue to shake this country, and it continues to draw into question whether the ceasefire will hold, particularly as US President Donald Trump has hinted that America could go back to combat operations as well. And on Iranian state television, we're seeing more people on air holding Kalashnikov-style rifles and promising to lay down their lives for Iran should the war restart.
Saudi Arabia condemned a drone strike near a nuclear facility in the United Arab Emirates, warning that the incident could pose a broader regional security threat. The attack on May 17 reportedly targeted an electricity generator located outside the Baraka nuclear plant in Abu Dhabi. Riyadh stated that the strike threatens regional stability and reaffirmed its full support for the UAE's sovereignty and security in the aftermath of the incident. Saudi Arabia also categorically rejected the attack during diplomatic communication with the UAE, according to Iran International. UAE Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan held a series of calls with regional counterparts to discuss the developments following the strike. Kuwait and Bahrain also condemned the incident, describing it as a dangerous escalation in an already tense regional environment. Kuwait said that targeting peaceful nuclear facilities violates international law and poses risks to civilian populations as well as the environment. Bahrain reiterated its solidarity with the UAE and praised the country's air defense systems for responding promptly to the perceived threat. Ahmed Abal-Gheit expressed relief after confirming that the fire resulting from the incident had been successfully contained. As Gulf countries expressed unified support for the UAE, Riyadh also reported drone incursions originating from what it described as Iraqi airspace. The UAE's nuclear regulator confirmed that there was no impact on the plant's safety, stating that all operational systems remained stable and fully functional. Authorities in the UAE have not yet identified the origin of the drone or the party responsible for carrying out the attack. The incident comes amid a fragile understanding between the United States and Iran, alongside ongoing efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Notably, this is not the first such incident involving the UAE since the April ceasefire, indicating continued underlying tensions in the region. On May 4th, a fire broke out at the Fujairah oil depot, which the UAE later attributed to a drone attack it said was carried out by Iran. After the Baraka nuclear scare, the UAE acknowledged that the hostile drones had entered its airspace from the western border, a detail that immediately set off speculation about where they were launched. Abu Dhabi authorities said air defenses intercepted 2 unmanned aerial vehicles, while a third managed to reach an electrical generator facility linked to the Baraka complex and trigger a fire. The Emirati Defense Ministry stressed that investigations are still underway, signaling that, at least officially, they are not yet ready to attribute responsibility to any state or group. Officials have promised that more details will be released once the probe is completed, effectively asking both domestic and foreign audiences to hold off judgment for now. At the same time, the UAE underlined that its forces remain ready to respond to future security threats, framing the incident as serious but contained within its broader defense posture. On May 17th, a drone strike caused a fire at an electrical generator associated with the Baraka nuclear power plant, instantly raising alarms about the vulnerability of critical energy infrastructure. The attack occurred in the Al Dhafra region and, crucially, outside the plant's heavily protected inner perimeter, allowing Emirati officials to stress that the reactor itself was never in direct danger. Abu Dhabi's media office reported that no injuries were recorded and that radiological safety levels remained unchanged, seeking to calm fears of any nuclear leak or contamination. Authorities emphasized that the blaze was quickly contained by emergency teams and did not breach any of Baraka's core nuclear safety systems, framing the incident as a security warning rather than a nuclear accident. So far, the UAE Defense Ministry has publicly maintained that the source of the drone attack is unknown, keeping its official language carefully neutral. Unlike previous incidents, Abu Dhabi has pointedly avoided directly accusing Iran, a notable change in tone that has fueled speculation about other possible culprits. Iran's Tasnim news agency quickly raised questions about possible Saudi involvement, highlighting regional rivalries and hinting at tensions that go beyond the usual Iran-UAE narrative. Tasnim claimed that relations between Riyadh and Abu Dhabi have recently entered a cold phase, suggesting that political friction could now be spilling over into the security realm. All of this is unfolding as Saudi Arabia and the UAE increasingly disagree over key parts of regional security strategy, from Iran and Yemen to energy policy and ties with Israel. Amid fresh warnings that the ceasefire could collapse, a new account of the UAE's behind-the-scenes role is shocking the region, casting Trump's Gulf ally as one of the loudest voices for hitting Iran harder. According to this report, shortly after U.S.-Israeli strikes began, Abu Dhabi pressed its neighbors to join a broader regional response, trying to turn limited retaliation into a Gulf-wide front against Tehran. Mohammed bin Zayed personally urged Saudi Arabia and Qatar to participate in a joint answer to Iranian attacks, arguing that only a united wall of states could deter further strikes. MBZ is reported to have believed that if the Gulf stood together, politically and militarily, Iran would think twice before firing on oil terminals, towers and airports again. Instead, key partners including Saudi Arabia and several other Gulf states refused to sign up to a retaliatory campaign, judging that escalation carried more risks than benefits. Some leaders are even said to have told MBZ bluntly that this was not their conflict, signaling they were unwilling to be dragged deeper into a fight they saw as primarily US-Iranian. All of this unfolded as Tehran fired nearly 3,000 drones and missiles at targets inside the UAE before the April 8 ceasefire, turning Dubai and Abu Dhabi into frontline cities overnight. Iran's barrages also struck ports, airports, towers and hotels across the wider region, underscoring why some Gulf rulers feared any additional strikes might only invite more destruction at home. Riyadh reportedly branded the UAE's push for joint strikes escalatory, choosing instead a deterrence-only posture, bolstering defenses and diplomacy while avoiding direct offensive action. That strategic split deepened already strained ties between Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, turning quiet economic competition into visible geopolitical friction in the middle of a war. In Qatar, officials briefly weighed direct retaliation after Iran hit the Ras Laffan LNG complex, but ultimately stepped back from the brink. Doha concluded its role should be de-escalation and mediation, not opening a new military front, especially with LNG exports and foreign bases sitting in Iran's line of sight. Bahrain and Kuwait broadly followed Saudi Arabia's caution, keeping to defensive postures and steering clear of any offensive operations that could widen the conflict. Oman, long a quiet backchannel to Tehran, was never expected to join strikes at all, instead continuing to play the role of discreet go-between as the fighting raged. Against this backdrop, Abu Dhabi shocked energy markets by pulling out of the Saudi-led OPEC cartel in late April, signaling just how far its rift with Riyadh had widened. Reports now suggest the UAE is even reviewing its participation in regional bodies like the GCC, raising the question of whether Trump's most enthusiastic Gulf partner is preparing to chart a far more independent course.